1,000,000
Voices.
Hi, I'm Catia Dal Poz, and this is 1,000,000 Voices, where inspirational speakers share their stories and champion organizations that are making a difference in the world. Hi, welcome to a new episode of 1,000,000 Voices. Today we're going to talk about music. I don't know about you, but I like to listen to music when I'm feeling down and when I'm feeling happy as well, because music can lift our spirits. No wonder it is often referred to as food for the soul. And our next guests have the right recipe for boosting your mood. Simon Whiteley and Tim Carleston are members of the prestigious St. George's Chapel Choir at Windsor Castle. They are also part of the Queen Six, an acapella group that is bringing a unique style of presentation and repertoire to concert halls across the globe. Hello, Simon and Tim. Welcome to 1,000,000 Voices. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Lovely to be here.
So I guess my first question is about life under lockdown. So how is it for you guys? Because I can imagine with all the concerts being canceled, it must have had a huge impact on your work.
Yes, it did. Yeah, it's been very, very difficult for us. It's not been as difficult for us as for some other people who do what we do. So we, as part of our job in Windsor, we actually get accommodation provided, which gives us one less thing to worry about. There are an awful lot of professional singers out there who don't have such a perk to their job. And so they're a lot worse off than we are. That being said, we've lost pretty much all of our concerts this year. So we were due to be performing around maybe 40 or 45 concerts this year. And of those, we performed maybe 6 or 8 at the beginning of the year. And then come March, everything was cancelled. And we're still not entirely sure when things are going to start up again. So that made lockdown kind of, it was a sort of slightly mixed, strange feeling. So first of all, you're very, very sad and upset that all your concerts have been cancelled. But then you think, well, hang on, I get very little time off usually. So it's kind of like, can I see this like a holiday, or is that the wrong way to view it? I don't know. So it sort of turned into an extended working holiday, I suppose. I don't know if Tim.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, it has got to that stage. It got to the stage a little while ago where if you do go for the genuine long holiday, for instance, summer holidays with your kids, if you're lucky enough to have them, you get towards the end and you start thinking, I'm just a bit twitchy and a bit bored now. I need to do something. But there's not really an awful lot we can do. So, I concur completely with that. And we've all had to try and make the best of it, I think. But it's been odd.
Singers are like athletes in a sense that you have to keep practicing.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you stay active during lockdown?
So, I mean, vocally, it's important that we keep vocally active. You're absolutely right, because we're using muscles like anyone uses any sort of a muscle for any other activity. So we basically need to be continuing to do singing practice individually if we can't sing together as a group.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking. When she passes, she smiles.
And there are various projects that we've set ourselves, and sort of various videos we've recorded of ourselves doing funny things.
Lockdown seemed like a good place to start, but the countertenor Carlos really isn't very smart. So here's a little video of what he's been doing.
And just basically anything to keep our voices active. It's also important, like for everybody in this situation, it's important to still be doing exercise and to be keeping physically active as well. So I cycle a lot, so I've been doing a lot more cycling than usual, which has been great. Good to get out of the house. But yeah,
And on top of that as well, of course, there's the kind of health, eating and drinking enough water and things. It's a terrible tendency, I think, in times, well, we don't know, we haven't seen times of lockdown in our lifetimes, but it's a huge tendency to kind of binge eat and watch telly a lot and have loads to drink and kind of, I don't know, it's just very dangerous in that sense. So you have to keep on top of your fluid intake, the right kind of fluid, that is. And, eating healthily, I did for the first month of lockdown, I did try and do a bit more exercise, but I also ate the world every day. Yeah. And I very quickly put on weight that I've now thankfully managed to lose. But it's a terrible temptation, I think, when you're fit. Not just because there's a boredom factor, I think. There's a kind of loneliness and boredom factor, but there's also this mental health kind of, you're locked away. It's a very strange situation to be in. And I think people generally just start to pile on the pounds or whatever. So you've got to be careful in that respect as well, to maintain our athlete finesse. I'm going to take that, by the way. I've never been described as an athlete before, but I'll take it.
Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us, just the two of us.
And in fact, you're all neighbors, right? You live next to each other within the grounds of Windsor Castle. So how was it during lockdown? Did you manage to go outside for some exercise? Did you see each other? I guess a lot of people wonder, how is it to live within the grounds of Windsor Castle?
Yeah, it's a really strange place to live in so many ways. It's wonderful. It's an incredible privilege and honour to get to live in a place like this. But yeah, we did. So it's the kind of thing where obviously during lockdown we weren't supposed to be going near too many people at the beginning, like even outdoors or anything like that. So we were always just trying to keep our distance from one another. There are communal spaces outdoors that we can use, which we were sort of taking it in turns to use instead. We'd pass by each other at a distance and say hi and maybe have a quick few words, but other than that we were just really trying to adhere to the guidelines as much as possible.
Not least because if you get one case of coronavirus in somewhere like the castle where it's a close-knit community, it'll spread like wildfire as much as it does anywhere else, and possibly more because we're all so contained.
So let's talk about your careers. When did you know that you wanted to become professional singers and members of a choir?
Tim, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, that was quite early on for me, I think. I think it probably would have been for the majority of us. It's a real, for most singers, I think it's a real passion. It's a thing you've felt from a tiny age. And I know that Simon and I both share... I was going to say we both share a father. That's not right. We both share the fact that our dads are both organists and involved in the choral tradition and the choral world. So I think, I won't speak for Simon anymore, but I feel like it was going to happen. My dad's a musician. My mum's a musician. My sister was a musician. And it just kind of, I fell into it. But I am completely passionate about it. And I used to listen to records in the olden days that my dad had of the King's Singers, who are still incredibly active and a brilliant acapella group. And I used to dream when I was about 7 or 8, I think, of being in the King's Singers eventually. But of course, I've gone one better and I'm in the Queen's Six now. But I think I knew from a very early age. I played the trumpet as well. And so it was definitely evident that music was going to be a huge part of my life, and that was how I was going to earn my money until COVID came along. So yeah, very, very early in my case. What about you, Simon?
So I started singing at a very early age. At the age of about 7, I was a chorister. I was a little boy chorister at York Minster. So I'm from York originally. But unlike many people who start out on that route at that very early age, I did not enjoy it. When I was a child, I hated singing in a choir. There was anywhere I would rather have been anywhere else, I think, than singing in a church. However, what it did do is it gave me a fantastic background in the music, fantastic experience in it. And when I actually grew up and realised sort of what was important in life, I realised, you know what, that was a great thing that I did, whether I enjoyed it or not, and it's something I want to do as an adult. And so I kind of fell in love with it a bit later, despite the fact that I did a lot of it much earlier. And I think we all kind of come at our careers from different routes. So I started as a boy chorister, and I think a few of the other guys did, and then sang through school, became a choral scholar at university, and then go into the professional singing world. But some people don't. So Dan, our top countertenor, for example, he didn't start singing properly until he got to university. So until he was about 19 years old. So he came to it much later than the rest of us. And so it varies.
Nick, our New Zealand tenor Nick as well was training in something completely different in New Zealand before he came to music. He was a very competent sportsman and was also something pharmaceutical, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was a biochemist.
Yeah, so he's come at it from a different angle as well. It's really very interesting.
Yeah.
And how did you become a lay clerk of St. George's Chapel?
So that's it's kind of like any other job, really. You kind of you see that there's this fascinating periodical called the Church Times, and if you in their ad pages, they advertise jobs such as organist positions and lay clerk positions. So you need to keep, if you want to do this sort of thing, you need to keep a close eye on the Church Times ad section. And yeah, I think we all just kind of found out about the job through that, or through friends, through other people. And you send your CV in, and if they like the look of you, you'll get called to interview, and you sing to the director of music and the assistant director of music. And then if they like you, you get put through to a second round, where you then have to go and sing in the chapel. In the main part of the chapel, you sing in front of all the clergy in all their robes, and all the other lay clerks in all their robes. It's one of the most nerve-wracking things I have ever done in my life. I've sung concerts in front of thousands and thousands of people. Nothing is as scary as singing in front of the lay clerks and the clergy in that situation. And then you also go for an interview with the clergy, and because a big part of the job obviously is whether you'll fit into the community. It's such a close-knit community, you have to be the right sort of person. So you go and chat to the clergy so they can check you're a good egg in whatever way, and then if you're lucky, like Tim and me, you slip through the net and they give you the job anyway. So yeah.
And could you tell us a little bit more about the history of the St. George's Chapel Choir?
Tim, do you want to do this?
All yours, Simon.
Sure. Yes. So, I mean, there's been music. There's been a choir and organist in the chapel for hundreds and hundreds of years. I think around 600 years or so. And our main job, is to sing the daily services. So there are 8 services a week that we sing in the chapel. So we sing evensong, which is one of the main Anglican church services. We sing evensong every day except for Wednesday. We get Wednesday as our day off. But then we also sing 2 morning services every Sunday as well. So we sing a matins and a Holy Communion service on a Sunday. So it's quite an undertaking. But as I say, it's been going on for many, many years. There are 12 adult lay clerks, so 12 adult singers in the choir, and then anywhere from sort of 15 to 25 little boy choristers as well. So they sing the highest part. Yeah, it's a great job. It's a great job. We get to sing for the royal family. We get to sing for all sorts of people, and we get to sing beautiful music with lovely people most days of our lives. So can't complain.
And how do you prepare for a major event, like a royal wedding, for example?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly more preparation time for those big occasions as necessary. I mean, of course, in the case of the royal weddings, it was all broadcast live on TV, so you have to be as prepared as you possibly can be. So I think pretty much everyone had memorized the music for that, and we knew exactly what was going to happen. And we had a full run through the day before the wedding, so everyone knew exactly what was going to happen and when. But yeah, we were preparing for that for months in advance, and it's the same for any big royal occasion. Garter Day is prepared well in advance, and we also sing for members of the royal family and the Queen on Easter Sunday as well. So that's another big occasion that we prepare for, maybe more than other times. But I mean, because we sing 8 services a week, you've kind of got to be, and we're singing different music at every service. So it's, you've got to be able to read music very well. You've got to be able to pick up a new piece of music and just be able to sing it, which is, there are quite a lot of people who can do it, but maybe not so many. But that's a main part of our job, is being able to sight read.
And I guess it's very interesting because you're witnessing history in the making, right? I mean, the royal weddings, the Order of the Garter ceremony, they are all historic moments, historic occasions. So do you feel somehow that you are part of history as well?
It really is like that. I had to pinch myself a great many times in the run up to and on the day of the wedding. It's just incredible. The Harry and Meghan one particularly was huge, and it's really bizarre actually, because it felt in the chapel itself, it felt very, very intimate. It just felt like any other normal wedding, really. And then when the dean said, I now pronounce you husband and wife, or whatever they say, there was a huge cheer erupted from outside the castle. So all the streets were closed off, and there was a huge street party. And it really did feel like we were part of history, and it was a great honor to be a part of that. Huge.
And how do you control the nerves in a situation like this? Like you said, I think it was broadcast to over 2 billion people around the world.
When Simon said earlier on, it was interesting. He said about the interview process and the audition process. And I remember doing the audition and thinking, this is a bit cruel. Everyone dressed up in their gowns and you standing in the middle, miles away from the organ, which is meant to be playing with you. And it's a bit cruel. And then I suddenly thought, well, actually, that's a great preparation. If you can perform under that pressure, as Simon said, it's probably the most nerve-wracking thing he's ever done. I would agree with that. If you can perform under that pressure, then pretty much any pressure that anyone's going to put on you in a future performance scenario will be under control. But we all were incredibly nervous that day.
Yeah, I think I was a bit more nervous in the run up to it, because I was nervous about getting ill. I was worried about getting sick beforehand and not being able to sing at the wedding. And I think there's something about that kind of pressure. And lo and behold, straight afterwards, I actually did get ill. But that might have had something to do with the party we had afterwards. But
it didn't help.
That's a different story. But yes, but on the day, it was, it's strange. You just have to kind of forget that the cameras are on you. You have to kind of just sort of block it out in a way, and just treat it like any other church service that you might be singing at. And we do it so frequently, it's actually not that difficult a thing to do. But yeah, as Tim said, it was still nerve-wracking. But
I think also, I don't know whether you agree with this, Simon, but the amount of focus that you need to just make sure you get the job done in the best way you possibly can kind of takes away from the nerves anyway, a little bit. And I used to always teach all my singing pupils who were getting ready for an exam, and they'd say, oh, I'm so nervous, how do I deal with nerves? And I used to say to them, well, just try in your head to treat it as excitement, because it's actually a very similar feeling. A lot of nerves and a lot of excitement for something is very similar. So the adrenaline's pumping and stuff. And I find that really helpful if I just kind of focus it into feeling excited for the event rather than letting it overwhelm me. That's helpful, I think.
And you must be role models for the younger ones, right? So who were your role models when you were growing up? And do you still, follow any artists that inspire you?
That's a good question. I think my biggest role model as growing up was my dad, as a person and as a musician, actually, because he's a brilliant musician, and we used to play jazz together all the time, and I was in a choir that he directed, so I very much looked up to him. But unfortunately for me, I looked up to cool people as well. I was really taken in by really cool and dangerous people, so that wasn't ideal. But I think the little boys do look up to us to a degree. They're nice kids, actually, you know, and they're all, we know them really well. I teach at the school where they all go as well, so I see them on a daily basis, a lot of these boys. And I think we've got the current group of lay clerks have got a really kind of good relationship with the boys. There's no sense of disciplining or seniority, really. It's very much, we treat them very much as professionals, because they sing to professional level already at the age of like 6, 7, 8 years old. They're already there every day nailing the music, and it's incredible to watch. So, and I think that develops their brains as well. You know, little kids having to perform at that level 8 times a week, it's unheard of in any other discipline anywhere, pretty much, I think. And it really, you know, brings out the best in most of them, I think, apart from that, you know, if there are any tiny little Simon Whiteleys there who are just being naughty and rude.
What about you, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the musicians I look up to most are other a cappella musicians. So the King Singers, as we've already mentioned, have always played a big role. I've been listening to them since I was, well, before I can even remember. My mum tells me she used to play me King Singers records when I was very small indeed. But then some other groups, sort of more towards the pop side of a cappella. So people like Take Six, that's an amazing American group. Various others. There are various sort of a cappella groups, and nowadays. So my brother is big into Renaissance church music. He does that. He sings regularly with a group called the Tallis Scholars. They're another big group who I sometimes get to sing with. And I always count myself very lucky whenever I get to go away with the Tallis Scholars, because that's a fabulous group. Mm.
What about Nirvana? I hear you're a big fan.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, yes, of course. When I was growing up in my teenage years, yeah, it was all about Nirvana and the Smashing Pumpkins and all sorts of bands that you'd maybe not imagine. Yeah, I was really into rock music and punk music and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, and you might hear a little bit of that kind of stuff in a very different way in a Queen Six concert. But yeah.
And that leads to my next question about the Queen Six. So it's an a cappella group, right? You are members of the Queen Six, and you travel all around the world to perform. So tell us a little bit more about the idea, the concept, the history behind the Queen Six.
So the reason we started the group was, so it was back in 2008, and around that time, there was quite a lot of call for after-dinner entertainment at events that were happening in the castle, sometimes involving some very, very important people. And we'd always sort of draw straws, so there might be 4 or 6 people who were available that night or wanted to do it, and we kind of throw something together a little bit last minute. And one of the lay clerks at the time just said, "Well, hang on, surely we can do better than this. Why don't we put a group together?" And there's also a desire to sing. So obviously in the chapel we only sing church music. And there's a bit of a desire to sing not just the church music, but some other styles, some pop and some jazz and some folk songs and some of the non-religious side of the repertoire. So you put those two things together, and the perfect solution is to form a group designed to sing that style of music, and that's how the Queen Six was born. And so we're called the Queen Six. We're named after Elizabeth I, because 2008 was the 450th anniversary of the accession of Elizabeth I to the throne of England. So that's how we came up with the name.
And it's very interesting because you always try to mix things up a little bit, right? Because in your repertoire, you always include more classical songs and pieces that are expected from an a cappella singing group, but you also include more contemporary pieces. But I think one thing that strikes me as makes everything more exciting is that there is a sense of humor in your presentation. And I think it's very clear that you guys always try to have fun as well and engage with the audience in a fun way.
There's always been, from the moment the group started, one of the reasons that we wanted to do it was that we could sing non-religious music, which of course you can't suddenly sing Thriller in the middle of a chapel service, you know. So it's nice to be able to do all those things. And then we realized that actually it's a really nice progression. Simon does a brilliant job of all the programming. So our favorite kind of programs go from really, really early Renaissance music kind of works through a little bit in chronological order, and then we'll move on to some modern classical church music, and then folk songs, and we gradually come up to date, and then at the end we'll do some poppy jazzy stuff, and it works really well for the group, and it works really well for most audiences as well, because you're kind of catering for everyone's needs. And the humor thing is, I mean, certainly I can only speak for myself, I think, in saying that I've had not the best experience in my life with musicians at the top of their game, being a little bit aloof and kind of almost thinking like they're standing up there on the stage and the audience have nothing to do with them. They're just there to listen. And I never wanted to be a musician like that. And I know the other guys don't either. You know, we're essentially a bunch of mates, best mates, and we happen to sing sometimes relatively well together. And I think we want to portray that. We want our audiences to be a part of the concert. We want to hear them laughing. We want to hear some response, not just a hushed concert hall, you know. And it's lovely. Our best gigs have been not necessarily when we've sung our best, but when we've come off and just had a great rapport with the audience. And we've seen people, we always come at the end of the last number, we'll always walk down the end and meet and greet our audiences at the back. And the best gigs are when audiences come up with huge smiles on their faces saying, oh, that was just such fun, you know, that's what it's all about. It's obviously the standard of music has got to be relatively good as well, but the fun is got to be there. I think it's an incredibly important part of music, not just the harmonies, not just the melodies, not just the rhythms, but it's a joy. Music should be a joy, and it should be something that makes you go away thinking, what a brilliant evening, you know. So I think that's a big part.
Absolutely. It should be, a concert should be an inclusive experience. Absolutely. And it should include as many people as possible. And in our case, we try to make that as part of sort of banter and the repartee. I think there's something to be said for the fact that we all live next door to each other as well. And we are just very close. You know, a lot of these groups, they just get together to sing together. But we live next door to each other, so we're always socializing together, we're always around each other, and it's great to share that kind of rapport with our audiences. And it's something that people say to us quite frequently after concerts, is it's so good to see how much fun you guys are having and to be a part of that. So that's what we like to try and do. And
it comes through your performance. I mean, it's very clear there is chemistry and a good relationship, and I guess that's very important, isn't it? Because you are constantly, you know, you go into the studio together to work on and to record, for instance, an album. You are also often, you know, you are traveling abroad and going on tour. Yeah,
that's right. Sorry, go on, Tim.
I was just going to say we did. Yeah.
Yes,
oh my God. Yeah.
In better times, yes. Unfortunately, all of that's been cancelled for the foreseeable future. But yeah, no. So we have 3 agents in different parts of the world. We have an agent in the States, in the US, in Germany, and in Eastern Europe. So we've sung in, you know, I keep meaning to do a count up of how many countries we've actually sung in, but it must be around 20, 25 different countries I think we've sung in now. Yeah, and we love it. We love the traveling. You have to love the traveling to do a job like this. Our families, our spouses and our children aren't always thrilled about the fact that we go away so much, but you know, that's what we've got to do to make our living, so.
And one of my favorites is September.
Oh yeah,
Simon's arrangement, it's a good one.
Another one, Thriller, Michael Jackson. was a fantastic album.
Yeah.
But you guys, it's so great to listen to those kind of contemporary also, songs. Another one that I'm particularly fond of is Wave from Antônio Carlos Jobim. I'm Brazilian, so I'm biased towards that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we love that.
And I saw the
arrangement.
video. The video is quite cheeky.
The one we did in Bermuda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I guess you guys have fun as well when you're trying to record those kind of songs.
We really do, and I have to say, Tim is the guy who is on all that kind of stuff. I remember recording that video, the silly video of Wave in Bermuda, and we hadn't really planned it. I think it was the morning we were before the afternoon when we were actually leaving the island. We'd been there for 2 nights. We'd been there for 2 concerts, and it was at the end of a tour. We were really tired, and we were just like, guys, we're here, so we should definitely do something. Let's try and record a video for Wave. And we all got down to the swimming pool where we did most of the recording, and we were like, oh, well, what are we going to do? And it's like, oh, Carlos isn't here yet. So we called Tim Carleston Carlos. Carlos isn't here yet. He'll know what to do. And he did. He kind of bounded over and was like, right, you there. My wife was there. Louisa, take the camera, you go over there. And he just directed us through the whole thing. And he just had such a clear idea in his head of exactly how he wanted it to go. He's got a marvelous sense of comedy, this guy. So
I do like a joke.
Yeah.
I invite everyone to watch. It's hugely fun.
When your eyes met